The Heiress's Revenge, a tale of betrayal and love. Welcome to Heart's Obsession. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Part 1, The Betrayal and the Unexpected Ally. The Masquerade of Lies. The crystal chandeliers of Ravencrest Manor sparkled like fallen stars, casting dancing shadows across the marble floors where hundreds of masked guests waltzed to the orchestra's enchanting melody. Isabella Hartley stood at the edge of the ballroom, her silver mask adorned with sapphires that matched her silk gown. She searched the crowd for her fiancé, Victor Blackwood, who had disappeared nearly an hour ago. He's probably discussing business, she told herself, though unease settled in her stomach like a stone. Victor had been distant lately, his kisses perfunctory, his smiles not quite reaching his eyes. But the wedding was only 3 weeks away. Surely it was just pre-wedding nervousness. Isabella decided to find him. She needed reassurance, needed to feel his arms around her and hear him say everything would be perfect. Their love story had been like a fairy tale, the charming gentleman who had swept her off her feet at last year's summer ball, courting her with poetry and roses, proposing under the stars with her late mother's ring that her father had given him. She moved through the crowded ballroom, nodding politely to guests who called out greetings. The Ravencrest Masquerade was the social event of the season, and her father had spared no expense. As the wealthiest shipping merchant in England, Richard Hartley could afford extravagance, and he adored his only daughter. The cruel truth revealed. Isabella walked down a quieter corridor, away from the music and laughter. She heard voices coming from the library, one was unmistakably Victor's deep baritone. Relief flooded through her. She approached the partially open door, her hand reaching for the handle, when she heard another voice. Female. Familiar. When will you marry her, Victor? I'm tired of waiting. It was Lydia, Isabella's stepsister. Isabella froze, her hand suspended in midair. Her heart began to pound. 3 more weeks, my dear, Victor replied, his voice dripping with amusement. 3 weeks until I become Mr. Hartley's son-in-law and gain control of half his fortune. The moment the marriage contracts are signed, the money is as good as mine. Lydia laughed, a cruel, tinkling sound. Poor, stupid Isabella. She actually believes you love her. She thinks you're her knight in shining armor. The fool, Victor said, and Isabella could hear the smirk in his voice. She's so desperate for affection after her mother died that she'll believe anything. Did you see how she looked at me tonight? Like a lovesick puppy. It's almost pathetic. Isabella's world tilted. She pressed her hand against the wall to steady herself, her breath coming in short gasps. This couldn't be real. This had to be a nightmare. What happens after the wedding? Lydia asked. After a suitable period, I'll arrange a tragic accident, Victor said casually, as if discussing the weather. A fall down the stairs, perhaps. Or maybe she'll catch a sudden illness. Either way, I'll be the grieving widower, and with no other heirs, you and I will inherit everything. Your father already sees me as the son he never had. You're brilliant, Lydia purred. And once Isabella is gone, we can finally be together publicly. No more hiding. Exactly. Now come here, my love. Isabella heard sounds that made bile rise in her throat. She stumbled backward, her vision blurring with tears. The man she loved, the man she'd given her heart to, was planning to murder her. And her own stepsister, the girl she'd tried so hard to befriend after her father's remarriage, was his accomplice. Flight through the shadows. She had to get away. Had to think. Had to. Isabella? Victor's voice called out. The library door opened wider. Is someone there? Isabella didn't wait. She turned and ran, her silk skirts gathered in her fists, her satin slippers silent on the marble floor. She could hear Victor's footsteps behind her, hear him calling her name with false concern. Isabella. My darling, where are you going? She ducked through a servant's passage, her mind racing. She couldn't go to her father, he adored Victor, trusted him completely. He would never believe her. And if she accused Victor without proof, he might accelerate his plans. She could be dead by morning. The passage led to the east wing of the manor, where her father's private study and personal chambers were located. It was darker here, away from the party. Isabella's breath came in ragged sobs as she tried one door after another. Locked. 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 Finally, one door opened. She slipped inside what appeared to be a gentleman's study, illuminated only by moonlight streaming through tall windows. She closed the door quietly and locked it, pressing her back against the wood, trying to calm her racing heart. "I wouldn't stand there if I were you," a deep, masculine voice said from the darkness. "That door tends to creak, and you seem to be hiding from someone." The Duke in the shadows. Isabella gasped and spun around. A man stood near the window, his tall silhouette backlit by moonlight. He wore no mask, and as her eyes adjusted, she could make out aristocratic features, a strong jaw, high cheekbones, and dark eyes that watched her with unsettling intensity. "Please," she whispered, "please don't give me away." "That depends," he said, moving closer with the grace of a predator. "What are you running from?" Before she could answer, Victor's voice echoed in the corridor outside. "Isabella. Darling, where are you?" "I'm worried about you." The stranger's eyebrow arched. "The concerned fiancé, I presume? Victor Blackwood?" Isabella's eyes widened. "You know him?" "We've met." His tone was ice cold. "And if you're running from him, you have excellent instincts. The man is a snake." "Isabella, please." Victor's voice was closer now. "I heard you were feeling unwell. Let me help you." The stranger studied her for a long moment, then made a decision. "Behind the bookshelf," he commanded quietly, gesturing to a large oak bookcase. "There's a hidden alcove. Quickly." Isabella didn't hesitate. She hurried behind the bookshelf and found a small space, just large enough for her to hide. The stranger pulled a panel closed, concealing her completely just as someone tried the door handle. "It's locked," Victor said from outside. Naturally, the stranger called out. "This is a private study." "Who's in there?" Isabella heard the lock click as the stranger opened the door. Through a tiny crack in the panel, she could see Victor standing in the doorway, his handsome face twisted with frustration. "Blackwood," the stranger said coolly. "I didn't realize you were on the guest list." "Duke Sterling," Victor replied, his voice tight. "I didn't know you were attending either." "Duke Sterling." Isabella's mind raced. This was Damien Sterling, the Duke of Ashford, one of the most powerful and mysterious men in England. Rumors swirled about him, that he never attended social functions, that he'd lost his family in a tragic fire, that he was as ruthless in business as he was reclusive in society. "I make rare exceptions," Damien replied. "Now, what can I do for you?" "I'm rather busy. I'm looking for my fiancé." "Lady Isabella Hartley." She seemed distressed and disappeared. "I'm worried she might have taken ill." "I haven't seen anyone," Damien said flatly. "And I would appreciate privacy. I have important documents to review." Victor's eyes narrowed, scanning the study. "Are you certain? I thought I heard." "I'm quite certain, Blackwood. Now, if you'll excuse me." Damien's tone left no room for argument. For a tense moment, Victor didn't move. Then he stepped back. "Of course, Your Grace. My apologies for disturbing you. If you do happen to see Isabella, please let her know I'm searching for her." "Naturally," Damien said, closing the door in Victor's face and locking it once more. An unlikely alliance. Isabella remained hidden, barely breathing, until she heard Damien's voice. "He's gone. You can come out." She emerged from the alcove on shaking legs. Now that the immediate danger had passed, the full weight of what she'd discovered crashed over her. Her knees buckled, and she would have fallen if Damien hadn't caught her arm. "Easy," he said, guiding her to a leather chair. "Sit down before you faint." Isabella sank into the chair, her whole body trembling. "He's going to kill me," she whispered. "After the wedding. He's going to kill me and take my father's fortune." Damien poured brandy from a crystal decanter and handed it to her. "Drink this. Then tell me everything." The brandy burned down her throat, but it steadied her. And then the words poured out, everything she'd overheard in the library: Victor's plan, Lydia's involvement, her father's blind trust in Victor. Damien listened without interruption, his expression growing darker with each word. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "You need proof," he finally said. "If you accuse him without evidence, he'll deny everything. Worse, he might act immediately." "I know," Isabella said miserably. "But how can I get proof? I can't go near him. I can't pretend everything is fine." "Actually," Damien said slowly, his dark eyes thoughtful, "you can. With help." Isabella looked up at him. "What do you mean?" "I mean, Lady Isabella, that I have my own reasons for wanting to destroy Victor Blackwood. He was responsible for the fire that killed my parents and younger sister 5 years ago. I've spent years gathering evidence, but it's not quite enough. However, if we work together, if you help me get close to him while I protect you, we can bring him down." Isabella's heart pounded. "You want me to continue the engagement? To pretend I don't know?" "Only for as long as necessary. I'll keep you safe, I give you my word. And when we have everything we need, we'll expose him publicly and make sure he pays for everything he's done." It was dangerous. Terrifying. But what choice did she have? If she ran, Victor would find her. If she told her father, he wouldn't believe her. This duke, this stranger, was offering her a chance, not just to save her own life, but to get justice. "Why should I trust you?" she asked. Damien met her gaze steadily. "Because unlike Victor Blackwood, I don't lie about my intentions. I want revenge, and I'm offering you the same. The question is, Lady Isabella, are you brave enough to take it?" Isabella thought of her mother, who had always taught her to be strong. She thought of Victor's cruel laughter, of Lydia's betrayal, of the life they'd planned to steal from her. She stood up, meeting Damien's dark eyes with newfound determination. "Yes," she said firmly. "I am. When do we start?" A slow smile crossed Damien's face, the first real smile she'd seen from him. "We start now. First, you need to return to the party and act as if nothing is wrong. Can you do that?" Isabella straightened her shoulders and adjusted her mask. "I can do whatever I need to do." "Good." Damien moved to his desk and pulled out a card. "This is my private address. Tomorrow afternoon, come to my townhouse. Tell no one. We'll begin planning your revenge." Isabella took the card, her fingers brushing his. A spark of electricity passed between them, surprising them both. "Thank you," she whispered. "For believing me. For helping me." "Don't thank me yet," Damien replied softly. "This will be dangerous, and there's no guarantee we'll succeed. But I promise you this, Victor Blackwood will pay for his crimes, one way or another." Isabella nodded, tucking the card into her bodice. Then she took a deep breath, transformed her expression into one of calm innocence, and prepared to return to the ball. As she reached the door, Damien called out, "Lady Isabella?" She turned back. "You're stronger than you think," he said. "Don't forget that." For the first time since overhearing that terrible conversation, Isabella felt a flicker of hope. She wasn't alone anymore. And with the Duke of Ashford as her ally, perhaps she had a chance after all. She slipped out of the study and back toward the ballroom, her mind already spinning with plans for revenge. Victor Blackwood had made a fatal mistake when he underestimated her. He was about to learn just how dangerous that mistake would be. Part 2, The Game of Deception. A new identity born. 3 days after the masquerade, Isabella sat in the luxurious drawing room of Damien's London townhouse, staring at her reflection in a gilded mirror. The woman looking back at her was a stranger. Her golden hair, once long and flowing, had been artfully styled into an elegant updo with carefully placed extensions that added auburn highlights. Cosmetics subtly altered her features: darker brows, a beauty mark near her lip, rouge that changed the shape of her face. Green-tinted spectacles concealed her distinctive blue eyes. She wore a sophisticated black morning dress with jet beading, befitting a wealthy widow. "Lady Catherine Ashworth," Damien said, standing behind her. Wealthy widow from Cornwall, recently emerged from mourning after her elderly husband's death. "You've come to London to invest your late husband's fortune and re-enter society." "It's perfect," Isabella breathed. "I don't even recognize myself." "That's the point." Damien's reflection met hers in the mirror. "Victor has never seen you dressed like this, styled like this. He knew you as a naive young heiress. Lady Catherine is worldly, sophisticated, untouchable." Over the past 3 days, they'd worked tirelessly on Isabella's transformation. Damien had hired a French dressmaker, a theatrical makeup artist, and even a voice coach to teach Isabella how to speak with a subtle continental accent. "Now comes the difficult part," Damien continued. "You must never break character, not even for a moment. Lady Catherine is confident, mysterious, and completely uninterested in marriage. She's looking for business opportunities and entertainment, nothing more." Isabella stood, testing her new posture. Lady Catherine stood taller, moved with deliberate grace, commanded attention rather than shrinking from it. "How do I look?" Damien's dark eyes swept over her, and something flickered in their depths: admiration, perhaps, or something more complex. "Dangerous," he said quietly. "You look dangerous." A thrill ran through Isabella. For the first time in her life, she felt powerful. "There's a charity auction tomorrow night at the Pemberton estate," Damien said, pulling out an invitation. "Victor will be there. He never misses an opportunity to network with the wealthy. I'll introduce you as my business associate. Your goal is to intrigue him without revealing who you really are." "And what about the real Isabella?" she asked. "Victor thinks I've fallen ill. My father has been sending him updates." "Exactly as planned. Your father believes you're staying with your aunt in Bath, recovering from a mysterious fever. Your letters, which I've arranged to have delivered from Bath, express your sadness at missing social events but insist you're not well enough to travel." Isabella felt a pang of guilt. "I hate lying to my father." "It's to protect him," Damien reminded her gently. "If Victor suspects your father knows anything, he becomes a target too. This way, everyone believes you're safely away, recovering, while Lady Catherine makes her grand entrance." Entering the lion's den. The Pemberton estate glittered with lights the following evening. Isabella, now Lady Catherine, arrived in Damien's carriage, her heart pounding beneath her composed exterior. This was the moment of truth. "Remember," Damien said as they approached the entrance, "you've never met Victor Blackwood. He's no one to you." "I understand," Isabella replied in Lady Catherine's slightly accented voice. They entered together, Damien's hand resting lightly on her lower back. Heads turned immediately. The Duke of Ashford rarely attended social functions, and his companion was an intriguing mystery, beautiful, elegantly dressed, clearly wealthy, but unknown to society. "Who is she?" whispers followed them. "Lady Catherine Ashworth," Damien announced to their hostess, Lady Pemberton. "Recently arrived from Cornwall. I've convinced her to invest in several of my shipping ventures." Lady Pemberton's eyes lit up with curiosity. "How delightful. You must meet everyone, my dear." Within minutes, Isabella was surrounded by curious nobles, all eager to know about the mysterious widow. She played her part perfectly, gracious but reserved, wealthy but discerning, interesting but mysterious. And then she saw him. Victor Blackwood, across the room, laughing with a group of gentlemen. Her heart clenched with remembered pain and fresh anger. But Lady Catherine simply noted his presence with mild interest. "Who is that gentleman?" she asked Lady Pemberton. "The handsome one in the grey waistcoat?" "Oh, that's Mr. Victor Blackwood." charming man, recently engaged to the Hartley heiress. Such a romantic story, they're madly in love, apparently. How lovely, Isabella said coolly, though inside she seethed. Is his fiancée here tonight? No, poor dear is ill. Been away for days. Victor is quite beside himself with worry. I'm sure he is, Isabella murmured. Damien appeared at her elbow. Lady Catherine, there's someone I'd like you to meet. He guided her directly toward Victor. Isabella's pulse raced, but she kept her expression neutral as Damien made introductions. Victor Blackwood, allow me to present Lady Catherine Ashworth. Lady Catherine, Mr. Blackwood is involved in several business ventures that might interest you. Victor bowed over her hand, his lips brushing her glove. When he looked up, his eyes held obvious admiration. Lady Catherine, it's a pleasure. I must say, I don't recall seeing you in London before. I've been in mourning, Isabella replied in her accented voice. But life is too short to hide away forever, don't you agree? Absolutely. Victor's smile was the same one that had once made her heart flutter. Now it only made her stomach turn. But Lady Catherine smiled back, cool and enigmatic. His Grace tells me you're looking for investment opportunities, Victor continued. I'd be honored to discuss several profitable ventures over dinner, if you're interested. Perhaps, Isabella said noncommittally. Though I'm quite selective about my business partnerships. I find trust is more valuable than gold, don't you? Something flickered in Victor's eyes, surprise, perhaps, at being challenged so subtly. Indeed, Lady Catherine. Trust is everything. Then we understand each other. She turned to Damien. Your Grace, I believe the auction is beginning? As they walked away, Isabella could feel Victor's eyes following her. The trap had been set. The dangerous dance begins. Over the following weeks, Lady Catherine became the toast of London society. She attended every major event, always on Damien's arm, always mysterious and fascinating. And Victor Blackwood became increasingly obsessed with her. He appeared wherever she went, always finding reasons to engage her in conversation. He sent flowers to her, rented, townhouse. He engineered introductions to business associates, trying to impress her with his connections and success. Meanwhile, the real Isabella continued to send letters from Bath, expressing her slow recovery. Victor wrote back with what seemed like concern, but Isabella could read the impatience between the lines. He wanted her back in London so he could finalize the wedding and execute his plan. But he was distracted now by Lady Catherine, who proved far more interesting than his naive fiancée had ever been. He's getting careless, Damien observed one evening in his study, where they met each night to plan and review their progress. He's been seen with Lydia in public twice this week. Before, he was always discreet. Isabella pored over the documents they'd been collecting, evidence of Victor's fraudulent business deals, testimony from people he'd cheated, connections to the fire that killed Damien's family. It was mounting, but they needed more. They needed irrefutable proof that would stand up in court. We need to get into his private office, Isabella said. That's where he keeps his real records. Too dangerous, Damien said firmly. If you're caught. Lady Catherine could manage it. Isabella met his eyes. If I could convince him to invite me to his home, for a private dinner discussion about business. Absolutely not. I won't allow you to be alone with him. You don't allow me to do anything, Isabella said, her voice sharp. I'm not your property, Damien. I'm your partner in this. They stared at each other, tension crackling between them. Over the past weeks, their relationship had grown complicated. What had begun as a simple alliance had deepened into something neither of them wanted to acknowledge. Damien was brilliant, dedicated, and surprisingly kind beneath his cold exterior. He'd taught her about business, about strategy, about strength. He protected her without trying to control her. And somewhere along the way, she'd started seeing him not as her rescuer, but as her equal. I'm sorry, Damien said finally, running a hand through his dark hair. You're right. I can't bear the thought of you being hurt. I won't be, Isabella said softly. Not if we're careful. Trust me, Damien. He moved closer, his dark eyes intense. I do trust you. That's what terrifies me. The air between them grew charged. Isabella's breath quickened as Damien reached out, gently removing her green-tinted spectacles. Without them, her blue eyes were visible, the real Isabella peeking through Lady Catherine's disguise. You're extraordinary, he whispered. Do you know that? Damien. When this is over, he continued, when Victor is in prison and you're free, may I court you? Properly? Isabella's heart soared. You want to court me? I want more than that, Damien admitted. But I'll start with courtship and see where it leads. If you'll have me. Before Isabella could answer, a knock sounded at the door. Damien's butler entered with a worried expression. Your Grace, there's an urgent message from your investigator. Damien read the note, his face darkening. Victor is planning something. He's been asking questions about Lady Catherine's finances, trying to verify her identity. Isabella's blood ran cold. Does he suspect? I don't know. But we need to move faster. If he discovers who you really are before we have enough evidence, then we accelerate the plan, Isabella said firmly. Tomorrow night, there's a private card party at Lord Morrison's. Victor will be there. I'll arrange to win against him, wound his pride, and then offer him a chance to recoup his losses, a private meeting to discuss a business venture so lucrative he can't refuse. And then? Then we spring our trap. Damien studied her for a long moment, then nodded. All right. But I'm not letting you go in alone. I'll be nearby, watching. The moment anything seems wrong. I know, Isabella said. We're in this together. She replaced her spectacles, becoming Lady Catherine once more. But as she left Damien's study that night, she carried with her the memory of his words and the promise of a future beyond revenge. First, though, they had to survive the present. The web tightens. The card party proved to be the perfect opportunity. Isabella, as Lady Catherine, played with calculated skill, winning hand after hand against Victor. She could see his frustration growing, his pride wounded by being beaten by a woman. You're quite good at this, Lady Catherine, Victor said tightly. I had an excellent teacher, she replied smoothly. My late husband was a master strategist. Perhaps we should discuss that business venture you mentioned, Victor said, leaning forward. Away from prying eyes. These card parties are entertaining, but I prefer more private negotiations. How forward, Mr. Blackwood, Isabella said with a mysterious smile. But I appreciate directness. Very well. Tomorrow afternoon, at your office. Shall we say 3 o'clock? Victor's eyes gleamed with triumph. Perfect. I'll have my associates prepare the documents. As Isabella left the card party that night, she felt the weight of what was coming. Tomorrow, she would walk into Victor's office, the same man who had planned to murder her. The same man who had broken her heart and betrayed her trust. But she wasn't the naive Isabella anymore. She was someone new, someone stronger, someone dangerous. And Victor Blackwood was about to discover that the woman he'd tried to destroy had become his worst nightmare.